How India got independence. Today, we explore India's incredible journey to independence. From the powerful Mughal Empire to British colonial rule, and the tireless efforts of visionary leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, India's path to freedom is a story of resilience and unity. We'll delve into key moments that shaped this movement, highlighting the pivotal events and heroic sacrifices that led to the birth of the world's largest democracy. Join us as we uncover the remarkable history behind India's fight for self-rule and the enduring legacy of its struggle for independence. Stay tuned, and let's get started. In the 1600s, India was under the rule of the powerful Mughal Empire, which had been in control for centuries. The country was a mosaic of smaller city-states, each with its own unique culture and history, and it had established trade routes that connected it to various parts of the world. India was renowned for its rich traditions in art, culture, and commerce. However, the colonial powers of England, Portugal, and the Netherlands were beginning to carve out their own territories within the subcontinent. These European nations utilized their trading companies to gain a foothold in India, with the British East India Company becoming particularly influential. At its peak, the East India Company controlled half of the world's trade, and it raised its own private armies to seize control of Indian regions, sometimes through military might, as seen in the Battle of Plassey in 1757, and other times through economic dominance. For many years, the British government granted the East India Company considerable autonomy in its conquest of India because the financial returns to England were substantial. However, this arrangement eventually led to widespread discontent and resistance among the Indian populace, culminating in the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. The mutiny was triggered by a variety of factors, including religious grievances, such as the use of animal fat in rifle cartridges that offended both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. The mutiny was a significant, though ultimately unsuccessful, uprising against British rule, and it marked one of the first instances of united Indian resistance. After suppressing the mutiny, the British government dissolved the East India Company and took direct control of India, inaugurating the era of the British Raj. Throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries, India was exploited for its vast resources, earning it the moniker, the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Despite the wealth generated for England, the Indian people faced severe hardship. Poverty rates soared, with more than half of the population living in destitution by the mid-20th century. The death rate increased, and the average life expectancy plummeted to less than 22 years. These dire conditions fueled a growing resistance movement among Indians who sought greater representation and control over their own affairs. The formation of the Indian National Congress in 1885 marked a pivotal moment in this struggle. Initially composed of Western-educated Indians selected by British officials, the Congress eventually evolved into a nationalist body advocating for Indian independence. One of the most influential figures in the Indian independence movement was Mahatma Gandhi. Educated as a lawyer in England, and with experience in civil rights activism in South Africa, Gandhi returned to India in 1915 and became a leading advocate for self-rule. He pioneered the use of nonviolent resistance, or satyagraha, as a method of protest against British rule. Gandhi's strategies included organizing marches, protests, and boycotts, writing speeches and letters, and leading prayer meetings. His approach not only unified the Indian populace behind the cause of independence, but also inspired future global leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. Gandhi's first major campaign, the Non-Cooperation Movement, was launched in response to the violence following the Rowlatt Act of 1919, which restricted civil liberties. The movement included a boycott of British goods, particularly cloth, and encouraged Indians to produce their own materials. Gandhi's symbolic act of spinning his own cloth on a spinning wheel became a powerful image of self-reliance and resistance. Despite facing imprisonment, Gandhi continued to lead major protests, including the famous Salt March of 1930, which protested the British monopoly on salt production. This march galvanized widespread support for the independence movement and further showcased India's capability for self-sustenance. During World War II, while India's industry expanded, Britain's resources were stretched thin, leading to weakened control over its colonies. This period saw the growth of parallel governments in India, where Indian leaders began setting up their own administrative systems. In 1942, Gandhi launched the Quit India movement, calling for the British to leave India immediately. The British response was brutal, with widespread arrests and violent crackdowns. However, the determination of the Indian people, coupled with Britain's dwindling capacity to maintain its empire post-war, paved the way for independence. The culmination of these efforts came in 1947, with the end of British rule and the partition of India and Pakistan. The decision to partition was based on the idea that creating separate nations for Hindus and Muslims would quell religious violence. However, the partition led to one of the largest and most tragic migrations in history, with millions displaced and hundreds of thousands killed in the ensuing communal violence. Despite the chaos, India finally achieved independence on August 15, 1947, followed by Pakistan on August 14, 1947. The process of decolonization did not end there. The newly independent India faced the enormous task of uniting its diverse population and integrating the princely states. Under the leadership of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, India successfully integrated over 500 princely states into the Indian Union, sometimes through diplomatic negotiations and other times through military action, such as in the case of Hyderabad and Junagadh. The creation of the Indian Constitution was another monumental step in solidifying India's sovereignty. The Constituent Assembly, led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, drafted a constitution that enshrined democratic principles and guaranteed civil liberties to all citizens. The Constitution came into effect on January 26, 1950, marking the official establishment of the Republic of India. This transition from a British colony to a sovereign republic was a remarkable achievement, shaped by decades of struggle, sacrifice, and the unwavering spirit of the Indian people. The impact of India's independence movement resonated globally, inspiring other colonized nations to seek self-determination. The legacy of leaders like Gandhi and the collective efforts of countless Indians continue to be celebrated as a testament to the power of nonviolent resistance and the enduring quest for justice and equality. Today, India stands as the world's largest democracy, a testament to the resilience and perseverance of its people in their fight for freedom. India's journey to independence was marked by immense struggle, resilience, and unity. Subscribe to InfoBurst